Hi everyone, welcome to Javaras. Let's continue our discussion of Spring Core Framework. In this video, we are going to see how to publish and receive events in Spring using Spring IOC container or Spring context. Now, there are three things to consider. First, the event itself. The second is the component which is responsible to publish the event. And the third thing is the component which is responsible to listen the events or responsible to receive the events. So there is an interface called application event publisher, which has a method called publish event and which is responsible to publish the event. So you can create any object of application event listener and then you can call publish event method and that will publish the event. Then there is another interface called application listener interface, which is responsible for receiving or listening to events. So this is a functional interface. So it has only one method, which is on application event. Now listener is a generic method. It has a type which is subclass of application event and this extends event listener. Now if you look at the definition of application context interface, you can see that it extends application event publisher interface. That means application context has all the functionalities which are provided by application event publisher. So whenever we want to publish the event and we need an object of application event publisher, we can use the application context itself. So we don't need to create any object or anything in order to publish the event. We can just use the application context. Now let's go to the events. So there are two types of events, standard events and custom events. So standard events are the events which are provided by Spring context out of the box. So the first is context refreshed event. So this is fired when the application context is initialized or refreshed. The second standard event is context started event, which is fired whenever the application context is started using the start method. And this method, this start method is only available on configurable application context interface. Then the third event is context stopped event, which is fired when we call stop method on application context. And this stop method is also available on configurable application context interface only. Then the next is context closed event, which is fired whenever the application context is closed using close method. And once the application context is closed, it cannot be restarted or refreshed again. Then the fifth standard event is request handled event, which is fired after the HTTP request is complete. And this is available only in Spring Web applications. And the next event is servlet request handled event, which is subclass of request handled event. So this is for specific requests which are related to the servlet. And this is also available in Spring Web applications, which uses servlet. Now these were the standard events. Now let's look at the custom events. So let's say we want to create an event called send email event. So whenever someone fires or whenever any component fires send email event, then there will be another component which will be listening for this type of event. And this event has information like email address where we want to send the email, subject, this is the subject of the email, and body, which is the content of the email. In order to create a custom event, we just need to extend application event class. So here we can see we are extending application event class and we just override a constructor. So I have already created a project. So if you see in the pom.xml file, we are using Java version 17 and I have added dependency for Spring context. This is the main method of the main class, which is the starting point of the application. There is nothing here yet. Then we have customer service class and email service class. So both of these are services and this is project config. So in the project config, I am already scanning the packages customer and email. So these two services will be available in the Spring context. Now in the customer service, this is responsible for handling any actions related to the customer, and email service is responsible for like sending the emails. Now let's say in the customer service, whenever someone sign up in our application, we want to send an email to the customer. So we want to send a greeting email. So we have created a method called public void greet here. We have the email, we have the name of the customer. So we created a subject and we created a body or content of the email. So the customer service will fire an event and email service will listen for that event. So let's first create the class send email event. So I have a package called events. Here I will create a class send email event, and this extends application event. So if we extend application event, we need to create a constructor. So we have created this constructor. Now let's create these fields. So email address, subject and body, private final string email, private final string subject, private final string body, and add constructor parameters. So now we have created the send email event. Now let's create getters for all these fields. So I've created getters here. So that's how we create a custom event. So this class extends application event. So this is a custom event. Now let's see how to publish an event. So to publish an event, we need an event publisher or application event publisher. We already know that application context already implements the methods of application event publisher. So we can just directly use the application context. But what we can do is, instead of doing that, we can implement application event publisher aware interface, and we can get the application event publisher from the Spring IOC container. So let's do that. So this is the class which will listen for the event. So here I will implement application event publisher aware, application event publisher aware, and here we need to implement one method which is set application event publisher. And now here I will create a instance variable private application event publisher, and this dot publisher equal to application event publisher. So that's how we set application event publisher. So now we have a reference to publisher, and we can use this publisher to publish any event. So I did something wrong here. So the application event publisher should be inside customer service, because customer service is responsible to publish the event. So I will just implement that here, application event publisher aware, and I will cut these from here, paste the code here, and in the email service I will not implement this interface. Okay, so since customer service is responsible for publishing the send email event, so that's why we need the reference to publisher here. Now whenever we want to publish an event, we can just use publish event method of the application event publisher. So now we want to publish the event here, so let's do that. So this dot publisher dot publish event, and here we can either give any object, or we can give any give an instance of application event. And since send email event is child of application event only, so we can create an instance of send email event as well. So let's create new send email event. It takes source, so source can be this. Then it takes email, so we already have the email. Then subject and body, so we have all these things. So we have created an instance of send email event. So this is the event, and this is how we publish the event. So now we are publishing the event. Now the next step is to listen for this event. So in order to listen for event, we need to implement application listener. And the application listener also takes the parameter, like which type of event we want to listen for. So here we want to listen for send email event inside email service. So we will implement application listener of type send email event. So let's do that. So this email service. So I will implement application listener, and the type is send email event. Now we need to implement the method on application event and the parameters of type send email event, since we want to listen for this type of event. Now we can do anything, whatever we want to do in this method. So ideally in this method we should send the email to the user, but I will just print it out here. Sending email to event dot get email. I will just print this out. Okay, so that's how we listen for events or receive the event. So I will recap it. So in the customer service, we implement application event publisher aware, and we get the application event publisher from Spring context, or Spring context itself, or application context itself is application event publisher. And whenever we want to publish the event, we call the publish event method of this publisher, and we pass an event. So this can be custom event or this can be standard event, but this should implement or this should extend application event. So since send email event already extends application event, so we can create an object of send email event and pass that to the publish event method. And now we need to listen for that event. So in order to do that, we just implement application listener interface, and we need to tell what type of event we want to listen for. So here we want to listen for send email event, and after doing that we need to override, or we need to implement one method which is on application event. This takes a parameter of type send email event, which is same as this parameter type, and then we can do whatever we want to do with this event. So that's how we listen for event. So now let's see whether it works or not. So let's create application context equal to new annotation config application context project config dot class. Let's get customer service customer service equal to context dot get b customer service dot class, and let's call customer service dot greet method, and here email I will say abc at email.com, and let's say name is John, and let's run main method. Now you can see sending email to abc at email.com. So we are calling greet method. Here we are publishing this event, and in email service we are listening for that event, and we are printing the email address. Now let's say you want to listen for multiple events in the same class. So what you can do is you can listen for events using annotation as well. So for that we can use event listener annotation on method level, and we can listen for event. So let's do that. So in the email service, I will remove it, and here instead of override, I will use an annotation called event listener. And in the method, this will be the type of the event. Now let's change the method name as well. So method name can be anything. So I will just change the name to send email so that it's more readable. And so we can create as many event listeners as we want. So let's create another one, void who. So method name can be anything. Context refreshed event. Context refreshed event, and let's print out event. So okay, let's refresh it. Now we can see here we are listening for context refreshed event. So we are printing the event here, and then we are listening for this send email event. So we are printing that here. So that's how we can use event listener annotation to listen for events. Now we can uh, receive multiple events in the same method as well. So for example, here we mm, we want to listen for context refreshed as well as context started event. So we can do that. So we can just give it an array which will be the type of events which we want to listen for. So I want to listen for context refreshed event dot class and context started event. But now this cannot be context refreshed event. So if you try to run it now, so it's working, but because we have not fired any context refreshed event, so that's why it is working. So but if I go to main method and instead of a application context, if I make it configurable application context, now what I want to do is here I after this I want to stop the context. So context dot stop. Then I want to again start it. So it will be context dot start, and okay. If I restart the app, now we are getting this error because yeah, this method will be called whenever any event of type context refreshed event or context started event is fired. So now here we are firing context refreshed event. So we are printing it. Then we got an send email event. So we are printing the email address as well. Now again, we used context.stop. So we fired a context stopped event, but there is no one listening for this event. After that, we started the context again using start method. Now this will fire an standard event which is called context started event. And we have already specified that this method will handle context started event as well. But in the parameter we have specified context refreshed event. So now context started event cannot be converted to or cannot be typecasted to context refreshed event. So we are getting this error. For example, we can give it application event, and if we run it again, so it will work fine. Now let's see how to publish an event after processing an event. So let's say after sending an email to the given email address, we want to publish another event, which is email sent event. Because let's say we want to do some processing after we are sure that email has been sent successfully to the user. So what this method can do is after sending an email to the given email address, it can create an object of email sent event, and it can just return that object. So whoever is listening for email sent event will receive this event. Now let's see asynchronous listeners. What we usually want is we want to process the events asynchronously. So we want to send the email asynchronously, but we don't want to get blocked here. So for that, we can use asynchronous listeners. So we can use add async annotation on the method. This is the event listener method. So we can use add that async here. If we restart the application, still we can see this is synchronous because we need to enable the async operations in the application. On the project config, we can use enable async annotation. So if we go to project config and we need to enable the async, and if we restart now, now we can see first we are seeing email sent. We publish the event, but we are not waiting for anything. After publishing the event, we just printed email sent. And now the sending of email and everything will happen asynchronously. So that's how we use asynchronous listeners. Now let's see some limitations of async listeners. So first, exceptions are not propagated. So if you get any exceptions, you want to be able to handle the exception. If you want to handle the exception, you can read more about that here. Async unquote exception handler. Also, if you want to send another event after processing one event, so we have seen that here how to publish an event after processing an event. We just return the object of another event, but you cannot do that with async listeners. For that, what you can do is you can publish the event manually using application event publisher. Then the third limitation is thread local and logging context are not propagated because the async happens in another thread. So your thread information or logging information will not be available in the async listener. Now, ordering listeners. So let's say you have multiple listeners for the same event. So if you want to order them, you can use ordering. So you can use order annotation with the order. So if the order is less, then it will get high priority. So let's see that here. So let's create another event listener here, and I want to use a sync event listener public void send email to send email event. Let's print something, another send email method. And if we restart the application, so we can see sending email here and another send email method. So if you don't use at the rate order annotation, so the sequence will be whatever the sequence they are registered. So if I just cut it from here, paste it here, and now you can see another send email method is printed first, then sending email. Now this is error prone because if you have large code base, you don't know which event listener will be registered first and which event listener will be registered later. So what you can do is you can use ordering here. So let's say order 10 here and order let's say 5 here. And if I restart it, now you can see sending email to abc@email.com and then another send email method. So now it doesn't matter where you put these methods. If the ordering is same or if the ordering is consistent, then you will be sure that which method will run first and which method will run after that. So that's how we order the event listeners. So that's it for this video. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed the video, please consider liking it and don't forget to subscribe the channel. I will meet you in the next video. Until then, keep learning. Bye.